Hello everybody and welcome back to OMB Reviews. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope you're doing well, and today we'll be talking about the box office from last year, doing an update on the Spider-Man No Way Home box office, but also touching upon this little ditty of a story which claims that the Black Widow film apparently lost $600 million due to piracy, or at least that is what is being claimed. Now, of course, I've got quite a few issues with this overall metric because it doesn't really take into account some pretty important factors. But before diving into those, please make sure you smash that like button, lap that fire button if you're watching over on Odyssey, and also make sure you're subscribed to the channel with that bell notification turned on. That way you know every time a new video or live stream goes live on the channel. So, as it says right here from MSN Entertainment, Life, the Philippine Star. It's being reported on multiple outlets right now, but it says here, Marvel's Black Widow starring Scarlett Johansson reportedly lost at least $600 million in potential revenue due to its release on Disney Plus on the same day as theaters. It says the film's release as a premiere access option on Disney streaming service caused a major pirating issue, with reports that Black Widow was pirated by more than 20 million viewers. Several piracy sites made the film immediately accessible and available in different languages worldwide. Well, yeah, that's going to be one of the issues when you put a film out day and date release onto a service where someone could easily use OBS or a wide variety of other screen recording softwares to get a high quality HD version of a film that you put out available. I mean, that's just going to be one of the things that you kind of have to deal with at the end of the day. And so that's, again, kind of Disney's fault at that point. And obviously, you know, we can obviously have, I think, a pretty good and pretty nuanced discussion about piracy and about the legality and also about the morality of that action. However, I do think that if we're going to blame anyone for this, I think that it's easy and pretty easy to put this blame on Disney, because for them to think that this was not going to be a possibility, or for them not to take any type of considerations or protocols to try and limit this as much as possible, again, that pretty much is on them at the end of the day. But again, also that $600 million number really isn't, I would say, as accurate as the $20 million, rather the 20 million viewer number that is listed here. So in 2021, Black Widow kickstarted the MCU's Phase 4 and was expected to rake in massive profits, despite being one of the highest earning films since the onset of COVID-19 in March 2020. The restrictions for cinemas and rampant piracy caused the film to just perform average in terms of box office returns. Okay, well, there's the first problem right there, because you are assuming, one, that this film would have been successful had it not been day and date release. There is no actual data to support that because, as you even mentioned, with things, you know, talking about obviously the pandemic, here's the thing. Why do you think people were watching this on Disney Plus or going to piracy websites? Could it be because they would not have actually gone out to a theater if that was the only option that was available? It's kind of the reasoning as to why Disney put this out on streaming, because they wanted to give access to people who were too afraid to go out to a theater. Remember, because again, the fear-mongering has been around for a very, very long time at this point in time, so much so that people literally thought that if you went to a theater, it was almost like a death sentence in a certain way, right? That's the kind of, again, level of fear that was being portrayed, even though up to that point, and even still to this very day, no major breakouts have ever been connected to a movie theater. Again, that right now is just a fact. And so when we look at this and we try and kind of like, you know, kind of parse through what is being said here, they are insinuating that Black Widow would have been a massive box office juggernaut and a huge hit. But again, there's no real indication that the people who were watching it on Disney Plus, or the people watching it, you know, through piracy, would have actually gone to a theater to go see it if those options were not available. And that also kind of brings into the discussion the biggest issue with all of this, which is the $600 million number, because again, kind of going off of that, not only does it mean or beg us to ask the question of whether or not those people who pirated the film would have, you know, had access to it, or rather would have gone to see it in theaters if that was their only option. That's assuming that they actually would have gone to see this film otherwise. Keep in mind that there are a lot of people out there who go frequently to piracy websites who never go to a theater, who will actually never go watch a film or never see any movie unless they get it for free, unless they get it through piracy means. So that number of $600 million is already kind of convoluted and already does not make any sense whatsoever, because it does not take into account, okay, let's take the streaming option off the table. Okay, how many of those people would have gone to see a movie instead? Really, it's impossible to calculate that number. So just to insinuate and to assume that it would have led to a massive success is kind of already disingenuous. Add on top of that the fact that we do have other releases that did not have day and date release on Disney Plus streaming servers, that even though they did better than Black Widow, did not do that much better, let alone $600 million worth better. That already kind of, again, throws a giant wrench into this entire situation as well. You look at films like Shang-Chi, you look at films like Eternals, right? Eternals lost money. Shang-Chi made just a little bit of money. Keep in mind also that Shang-Chi reportedly cost $50 million less than Black Widow, so had the movie cost as much as Black Widow, it also would have been a financial loss and a financial failure as well. So when you take all these things into account, this logic just does not hold up at all. Right. So obviously this is being done, putting out the $600 million number, right? It makes it really, really good. Makes people, kind of give some caveats to Disney. And I imagine that you'll have people like, Scotty Boy Mendelsons of the world who will later on in their box office analyses of 2021 will say, it was reported that they potentially lost $600 million and try and use that as an excuse for why this film failed. Maybe it's that this film failed because it couldn't motivate people to go out and see it in a theater. Maybe that is the reason. Keep in mind that there are films that were released day and date on even HBO Max and other places that were able to still drive people to a theater to go see a movie, let alone talking about the massive record-breaking results from Spider-Man No Way Home, which is over $1.3 billion after just a few weeks of release. All of these things just throw into the face of all of these people in the media. This again, the pandemic narrative, it just destroys that narrative altogether. And it really does, I think, kind of make us start to question about, the logic that they're using to try and justify articles like this, which just really do not hold up even when you go into scrutiny. It says, in a detailed analysis, Deadline shared the 30-day home viewership of movies, including Black Widow on Disney Plus, and another tentpole films on other streaming services from third-party data, Samba TV, which is only available in a certain number of homes, and so therefore is not even itself that reliable of a metric. It says, according to a report following Black Widow, it was clear that day and date leads to a free fall at the box office in the subsequent weekend of the MCU title. Scarlett Johansson movie weathered the worst second weekend drop for a Disney distributed Marvel movie at 68%. The crimping in windows, which of course impacted the star's bonus, led to the twice Oscar-nominated actress suing Disney for a reported $40 million plus. So again, this is the reason why when people say, well, Black Widow actually made money when you take into account what it made on Disney Plus or what it reportedly made on Disney Plus. But then I say, yeah, but then you got to subtract the $40 million plus that Scarlett Johansson got in her lawsuit, and it kind of goes away at that point. Adding to the further erosion of the box office for any theatrical day and date release on streaming is the fact that these movies are pirated promptly with clean 4K copies in several languages around the world by the end of August. Sources in the know informed us that Black Widow has been pirated more than 20 million times. That's close to a $600 million estimated loss. And here's the other issue too, is that also is insinuating that that is 20 million individual persons that are pirating it. It's not including people watching it more than once. It's not including people who are accessing a film to download it or anything like that. So it really is, again, a very problematic metric because it just leaves so many other factors, out of the comparison whatsoever. But again, all of this really falls apart when you compare this to other films, not just during the pandemic, but then also just items when it comes to the MCU in general. So obviously, I've been following these numbers here from Spider-Man No Way Home, but I think that Shang-Chi is a great example, right? This film was an MCU film, an unknown character in the MCU at that, and even with a $50 million less budget, even without being day-and-date release on Disney Plus, guess what? It still only made $417 million worldwide. Black Widow made around $380 million, so please explain to me the $600+ million loss from Black Widow. Like, again, if this was the kind of number that Piracy itself was going to have an impact on, you would expect there to be a pretty massive difference in these two. But even at the international box office, Shang-Chi was only $2 million ahead. In the domestic box office, we see a little bit more of a discrepancy, but it's still about $40 million difference. So explain to me how you get that $600 million metric when your own numbers from your only successful MCU film this year, pure MCU Disney film this year, that's not relying on Sony at all, is, again, one example of a film being able to actually make its money back based on reported numbers and reported data. And also explain to me how a film like Spider-Man No Way Home is beating films like Avengers Infinity War pretty handily, not just domestically, but I think eventually, too, is going to pretty much give it a run for its money in the international market, especially as it is set to release in Japan this coming weekend. Speaking of these numbers, actually, it's one of the first times in the domestic release of Spider-Man No Way Home that it actually will be losing, and did lose on the third Tuesday. So again, getting really into the weeds here. But on the third Tuesday, it actually came in a little bit under where Infinity War was, where Infinity War made $6 million on its third Tuesday. No Way Home only ended up making $5.9 million. Now, we of course can't forget the fact that on that third Monday, No Way Home had 7.9 to Infinity War's 4.6. and the fact that on both of these days it's beating out even that of Endgame, what we're ending up seeing is still a movie at $627.4 million domestically, overshadowing completely the 561 of Infinity War, and just totally destroying every MCU film that came out this year, including Black Widow and including Shang-Chi, which, remember, did not have a day-and-date model on Disney+. So I think that all of this is to say that, again, we see continuously the studios will try and spin the narratives to whatever they possibly can, and the complicit media will also do the same, trying to, again, claim this bogus $600 million number loss when you actually look at other films and when you actually look at the data in front of us, there is absolutely no reason to say or to even suspect that that is even close to a potential loss for the film. And again, I would love to see a survey of those 20 million. And simple question, would you have seen this film in a theater if that was your only option? And I guarantee you the vast majority of those people are going to answer no to that question. Because as I said, when you are someone who's involved with piracy, typically you're going to be someone, again, people are telling me all the time in my comment section, in my live streams, saying like, oh, sail the high seas, sail the high seas. And that's not something that I really do. And so, again, hearing from them, though, they are very passionate about they will not pay a cent for these movies. So to insinuate and to assume that it somehow costs them money because somehow it would have meant that they would have spent their money elsewhere and would have spent their money on the film does not actually pan out at the end of the day. So anyway, what are y'all's thoughts about this news? Do you buy into this $600 million in losses? Again, this film lost money, but to say that it lost $600 million, again, I think that is them trying to, kind of say like a woe is me type situation. I wouldn't be surprised if they're also trying to use that as a way of, pushing legislation or trying to push other means of trying to basically get, recompense for that loss, right? To say, this is why we deserve help, right? So it's trying to push either a bill against piracy or a bill trying to give money to studios or give money to these people who were impacted by it. Instead of, giving it to the theaters that were the most impacted by all of this, right? These studios, multi-billion-dollar corporations, right? They have nothing to worry about. Those theater chains, though some of them are major conglomerates, have a lot more at stake, especially since many of them are run by individuals and are easily the most impacted by all of this during the pandemic, which is why No Way Home, I'm sure, has made many of them very, very happy because it shows, guess what? It's not about piracy that's the issue. It's, hey, if you actually put out a film in theaters that people actually want to see, and you actually give fans what they want, and you actually give fan service, is what No Way Home does in droves and does amazingly well. Guess what? People will actually show up to go see your film and will go to see it multiple times to the point of the film being well on its way to at least $1.75 billion by the end of its run, and even has still a potential at $2 billion as well. We'll have to, of course, wait and see how it does in its fourth weekend of release. But let me know your thoughts about this in the comment section down below. If you like this video, smash that like button, leave that fire button over on Odyssey. You're all amazing and beautiful people. Hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. And as always, God bless. And now for a huge shout out to all of my January Patreon Subscribe Star and Locals members. Starting first off with Locals, shout out to Kara Tharp, UAB Mad Dog, Mike Jackson, Biffer DeHobbit, and Robert Barnes. Thank you all very much for supporting me over on the Locals platform. Also a shout out to my Subscribe Star people, UAB Mad Dog, Mike Jackson once again, Storm Tracker, The R, Fast Reaction, Nosferatu Gatsu, Stan 4, John B, Mr. Roy, Glinzer, J. Alex McCarthy Jr., Dean Heiss / the new number 2, J-Rod the Beer Guru, and ZK Man. Thank you all very much for supporting me over on the Subscribe Star platform. And lastly, to my Patreon supporters, my 30 Patreon supporters over there, animation commentator Brandon, let's go Brandon, Brian P., Christopher Bowman, Father Christopher Miller, hail to you Father, Father Damian Cook, Garrett Searles, Hannibal Grimm, Harold Francis, Inflamed Wood, Jacob Juice, Jeffrey Toon, Joe Horn, Jonathan Carney, Gomer Kyle, 79, Lance, Laura, the Modern Major General Story, Mike Jackson, Mad Mitch Dunaway, Mondo Spieler, Mr. Peabody, On to June, Orange Hat Reviews, Out of Step with Reality, Priscilla Hall, Rosetta Ellen, Stan Andrian, Miss Martin Muses, Theodore Benden, and Tina Bojan, and of course, Tina B, the Empress of the Universe. Thank you all so very much for your love and for your support. And if you want your name shouted out at the end of every live stream and at the end of every video, please make sure that you support me over on Patreon, Subscribestar, or on Locals. Also, you get a ton of other goodies if you support at the Army of Asgard level and above. Starting at the Army of Asgard level, you get access to various giveaways that I do during the month, including various 4K titles. Many of them 4K Steelbook titles, and so if you want access to that, check out the Army of Asgard level on those platforms specifically. You also get access, once you are a Keeper the Bifrost level member, to that, plus a podcast that I do with John the Flick Pick Flickinger, where you actually get to ask us questions, and also, of course, get access to that and the library of previous podcast episodes. We're up to about 33 episodes now that we have been able to do. I think most of those episodes now at this point we've actually done it together, which has been a lot of fun. And of course, you can join at the Chosen of Valhalla live stream, Chosen of Valhalla live stream level, where you get access to not only all of those things, but also you get access to be featured on the channel once a month during the Chosen of Valhalla live stream with the other Chosen members, which is always a lot of fun. Also, during your first month, you get a free t-shirt sent anywhere in the world. You just let me know your size. Let me know the t-shirt that you want from the store over on Teespring or on TeePublic, whichever you prefer, and I will gladly send that out to you if you're at that level. Anyway, you guys are all amazing and beautiful people. Hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and as always, God bless.